Okay everybody, welcome to my tomato video. This is going to be some footage about my tomatoes. I grew heirloom tomatoes in pots. It's something I've been doing for the past 2 years. Started out with one pot, and then the following year I had 6 pots. So, you'll see me in this video basically showing you some photos and some footage about how how I went about it and what the end product looks like. They're real fresh, real good tasting tomatoes right out in your front yard. So this is a real good idea if you got a green thumb and you want to save a little bit of money by growing your own food. This is a good idea. So this footage is some footage I took last spring, watering my seedlings. The baby plants. As you can see, they're about 1 inch high there. So what you want to do is you want to watch how much water you give them. And I found that a mist. You can find a mist style hose. You can. That is a good way to water, as opposed to like a heavier stream, because you can actually damage your plant. The weather is cold, and you can trample over your plants with the water if you're not careful. So a mist is a real good way to water. So what I'm going to do here is basically show you what I did with some of my tomatoes. You basically you boil water and you remove the skins, and then you extract the seeds, and you end up with a nice tomato sauce or tomato puree. So there I have a pot of boiling water, and you bring it to a boil, and then you add your tomatoes there. You let it sit for about 3 or 4 minutes, and the skin is able to be peeled right off. So yeah, the skin, I know the skin is kind of tough eating. It's not very good, I think. It doesn't blend up too finely. So I prefer to remove the skin and the seeds. Yeah, so the whole idea of putting them in pots is because where I live there's poor weather, there's frost. I live up north in Minnesota. There's frost, snow, heavy rain in the spring, and then when it gets to be poor weather, you can actually take your pots and move them undercover, like in a shed or in a garage even. So that way your small plants will not be affected by the heavy precipitation or the heavy wind. So I found that was a good idea. And here is the straining of the tomatoes. Once you boil them and you cook them for a few minutes, you strain that water, and then you basically bring them to your cutting board and start the process. So like I was saying, you really want to watch how much water you give these tomatoes. They take more water than you might imagine. They really want a lot of water, and for the amount of dirt, I have about 50 or 60 pounds of dirt divided up in those 6 pots. So it's quite a bit of dirt, and the water. I watered every day, maybe 2 or 3 times a day with the hose, and mainly that mist when they were little, and then a larger stream as they got nice and tall, a couple feet off the ground. You can start watering pretty heavily. So you do have to kind of guess what a good amount of water is, but I will tell you they take more water than you might imagine, so you really have to water. I also used, okay, well here's the first start of the process of, you know, removing those seeds. Cut them in half and you remove the skin. As you will see eventually, I basically peel the skin off of each tomato, and then I spoon out the seeds. And what I'm doing is I am putting the seeds into a strainer, as you will eventually see, and I'm just keeping the solid inner part of the tomato for my sauce. It's very meticulous work. It's time consuming, but you know, that's how they make tomato sauce with the machines at the factory, and that's, you know, that's all great, but the tomatoes I grew for myself, I found were very fresh tasting, and I thought they were, you know, just about the best tomatoes I'd ever had. So, you know, what I actually did eventually was a couple weekends I put a sign out front, and I had tomatoes for sale, and you know, a few people came by and checked that out. So that's a good way to go too if you're looking to make some of your investment back. You know, you don't really have to spend a great deal of money on this project. I didn't have any pots, so I bought pots. I bought the cages, the metal cages, which were, you know, pretty inexpensive. You don't need the cages, but it's a good way to keep your plants upright. So here's some sped up footage. I have about 20 tomatoes to do here, so it gets a little bit redundant. You know, yeah, so your investment is pretty low in pots, cages, and dirt, and then, you know, a little bit of fertilizer. I chose to use a little bit of fertilizer. You don't have to, but you know, that gets you a real nice and clean product at the end of your year. You fertilize your dirt. I use fertilizer sticks, actually. The whole thing just produced a real good fresh tomato, and you're gonna be real impressed at the taste of this fruit, and it's real cheap. And you know, when you think about the cost of, you know, a jar of sauce, it starts to become a pretty good investment. It'll pay for itself eventually, 1 or 2 years down the road, especially if you decide to, you know, sell your product like I did. You know, yeah, so there's, you know, farmers markets and stuff like that are a good idea, but that's mainly for large scale farms, so I just put a sign out front and stuff like that. So there's my colander. It's a real fine strainer. You want a real fine strainer to get those seeds, because there's plenty of juice, and here is you know, to extract all that juice. That's got all great flavor in there, so you want that a part of your puree. And then you can just take the seeds out, and as you can see on the right side of the screen, there is a bag of seeds that I keep. So next year I'll be planting some more of those seeds, and you know, you get hundreds of seeds for a couple of tomatoes only. So you can, you know, if you want, you can increase the amount of planting you do. And here is, you know, oh, and that on the right side you can also see some green, some not quite ripe green tomatoes. And you know, that if you let your tomatoes sit in the sun, you know, off the plant, they will eventually turn red. What I had to do was, you know, it got very cold in the fall. The winter started arriving early, so I had to pick all my tomatoes and just kind of box them up and bring them indoors where it was warm. So If you're lucky enough, you can let your tomatoes sit and they will eventually turn red. That's the beauty of it. So, you know, unfortunately I don't live where it's tropical all year round, so this is a real cold climate type deal. So yeah, it gets a little bit repetitive, and there's some more extracting of seeds. And here's a little bit of a zoom in, a close-up of the tools and the tricks of the trade here. So yeah, there's my waste. That's the skins and the brown part. That is the sauce that I'm eventually going to blend up here. I'll show you that in a little bit. Yeah, so that's basically it for that little chore. It is a nice option because I do cook a lot with tomatoes, and if you check out my other videos, to promote my other videos a little bit, sorry about that, but there's, you know, a lot of different recipes that use tomatoes, and this is a real good way to improve on your cooking because the tomato is so very fresh and good tasting. So here's a blend for a couple of seconds. Just like out of the can, only this is a very fresh product. So the video is almost over, and I would like to say thank you for viewing. Please check out my other videos, and thanks for continuing to view my videos. I really appreciate that for myself, and so the more views the better. And yeah, I've been if you've been wondering, I've been kind of not making videos for a year and a half or so, and you know, trying to make as many as I can, but it gets tough, you know, tough to think of new ideas. So I need you guys to view, I need you guys to comment and share your thoughts. So that's we'll keep this channel going at all costs. So there's the final product. Once again, it's a real fun thing to do, and once again, thanks for viewing. So I will stop talking now. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.